Good morning. It's another exciting day on Quest Television and Radio. My name is Sarah Omowigo, and of course I'm not alone. Always joined by my colleague, Mr. Alex Ogbonaya, and of course extreme analyst in the building, talking about Comrade Odomo, the on-day bishop. Yes, we have introduced ourselves, the station, of course. So right about now, it is time for the program we call the Newspaper Review, where we look at the trending stories in the world of news, sport, and entertainment. So without wasting much time, let's quickly dive into the dailies. And the first paper up for review this morning is the Vanguard newspaper. And the big story says, Kano, we stand by our verdict sacking Governor Yusuf, appellate court or appeal court. That is what they are saying. And the kicker underneath that story says, NNPP files appeal at Supreme Court, wants NJC to probe appellate court judgment. Insists CTC confirms its candidate, Yusuf won on appeal. There is no confusion, says APC. Demand CTC of appellate court judgment. Appellate court registrar dismisses controversy trailing CTC of judgment, says it's clerical error. Protest rocks Kano. So apparently there is a CTC that says Yusuf was not, rather what's his name? He was not sacked, while the other one did not win. But moving away from that one, other headlines from the Vanguard paper reads, Israel-Hamas conflict has gone from war to terrorism, coming from Pope Francis. You can read more of the story on page 5 and page 8 of the Vanguard paper. Well, other headlines here also read 2023. Edo, Ebonyi, Anambra top list of electoral offenders. More of that story on page 9 of the Vanguard. What you will get on page 10 says Ondo political crisis. Intervene now, Fashoranti, Fale, others tells Tinubu. And we have another headline here that reads, that's the masthead here. It says, why I deserve to be listed in Guinness World Records. This is coming from our president, Tinubu. You can read more on that on page 9 of the Vanguard paper. And what you will see on page 10 says, Apapa gridlock, truckers defy Sanwo-Olu's directive, returns and block road. Alleged procurement fraud. Ex-CBN Governor Emefiele gets 300 million naira bail. You can read more on that on page 9 of the Vanguard paper. And I think the last headline, okay, not the last, I could take from the Vanguard, says federal government to drive tax through enforcement of laws. You can read more on that on page 19 of the Vanguard. And the last one says Olu Fashion and Amechi Law. That's on their columnist page. So if you want to get more on that, that's page 28, 23 and 24 of the Vanguard paper. So yes, that is the much that I can take. Right about now, handing over to my colleague to review the next paper.
And the next paper is Daily Sun newspaper. Let me borrow your words. Let's dive into it.
Let's dive into it.
No, when you said let's dive into it, I was expecting to hear a splash, but I didn't hear anything.
I absorbed it.
Keep the gun running. You absorbed it, exactly.
So I know you're going to absorb this one too. Okay, so Daily Sun is up next. Oshun, Edo, Anambra, Kano, top 2023 electoral offenders list. That's the lead story. 187 lawyers, 16 SANs to begin prosecution of suspects, 1,076 arrested in 35 states. That's the lead story. And below that one, not much really on the front page of the Daily Sun. Nigeria facing worst economic crisis, says Reps. Details are on page 6. Federal government moves to unlock $300 billion in deed capital via land reforms. That's on page 23. Former CBN Governor Emefiele gets 300 naira million bill. Ooh, that's on page 4. And Kano Guba NNPP protests, urges NJC to review court rulings. We've not heard the last on that. So much will be happening there in the coming days or weeks. Court declares Buhari's appointment of FCC's chairman secretary unlawful. Medicine after death, if you ask me. Details are on page 5 of the Daily Sun. And finally, on the front page of the Daily Sun, just by the side of the masthead, fuel will supply to last beyond Christmas, Quarry tells Senate. Akpabio pledges support for NNPCL. But the big question is, for how much? Okay, details are on page 25. That's that from the Daily Sun. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. The next paper out for review is The Nation. And the latest story says Appellate Court lays to rest Kano judgment CTC controversy. That story says clerical error can't invalidate verdict. Party seeks probe. Police disperse protesters in Kano. NNPP takes case to Supreme Court. All of these and more you can find. Okay, they did not specify what page, but when you get a copy of the Nation's paper, you're definitely going to get this story. Another headline says, First Lady inaugurates market money scheme. Emefiele gets 300 million naira bill. You can read more on that stories on page 4 and page 3 respectively. Trial of 191 electoral offences suspects to begin in Ebonyi, Edo, Anambra, which have the highest numbers of suspects. Well, above the masthead says Fashoranti, Fale orders intervene in Akerodulu, Ayedatiwa field. You can read more on this on page 27 of the Vanguard. What you will get on page 5 says 2024, 26 trillion naira budget. Federal government targets 7.8 trillion naira loan. Haruna Musa takes office as Jay's Bank MD and CEO. Congratulations to him. That you can find on page 7. Still on page 7, NNPCL allays fears of petrol shortage ahead of U-tide. Well, let's see if we have more stories on the Nation's paper. Yeah, it says Inspector killed in policeman soldiers clash. That you can find on page 6. Page 7 says federal government, state, council share 906 billion naira. The amount of the money is getting to me at this point. Please go ahead with the next paper of review.
Don't do like the free that will take the sweat out of the coke, but you know the coke will come and take the...
No, I'll go take it. Mr. Alex, please, the next paper for review.
Yes, indeed, and it's Punch newspaper. Let's see how we can punch this one up. Okay, we hope no huge figures here, because I too am afraid of figures. Kano poll controversy, police NNPP protesters clash, more cloud over judgment. Court APC blame clerical error. NNPP Labour Party insists judgment doctored. Yusuf heads for Supreme Court, says appeal court lacks jurisdiction to determine party membership. I did say we've not had the last on this, and we really have not. Okay, and still on the front page, Fintiri intervenes as soldiers kill inspector in Adamawa. You can read up that story on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. 1.2 billion naira fraud. Emefiele gets 300 million naira bill restricted to Abuja. That's on page 28. Police tear gas protesters, shield Oshun CP from mob. Oshun is one state that is boiling. Page 20, let's see, 8 is where that story is. And Senate passes MTEF to probe tax waivers under Buhari. That's on page 21. And still on the front page of the Punch, above the masthead, Niger junta sues Tinubu ECOWAS. Court rules December 7th. That's on page 3. Fresh naira scarcity hits Kano, Sokoto, Edo, others. And I'm even tempted to add Delta to that. The full story is on page 25 because Colorado, I saw that reaction from you. Federal government slashes wage award by 100 billion naira labor kicks. That's on page 30 of the Punch newspaper. And I think that's all we have. We have a picture here that we need to talk on. I think it has to do with the police and the military wahala, if you permit me to use that word, in
Adamawa State. Yes, exactly.
I think at the left side of the paper, you have pictures of soldiers and some police officers, and then the middle one you have where gunshots. I guess gunshots were fired. They have a hose, and then we have bullets as well.
I mean, an inspector was killed.
Used bullets, yes, and an inspector was killed in the process. A sad one it is, but we're happy that the situation has been brought under control. That's that from the Punch newspaper. Over to you, Sarah.
All right, thank you very much, Alex. Well, because of time, that is the much that we can take on the papers this morning. But right about now, this segment will not be complete if we do not hear from our listeners. For you to be a part of the program, do also call the numbers on your screen. Or for those of you listening by radio, the numbers are 081 88 888 931 or 080 22 931 931. Keep it short, your name, your location, and then go ahead. Before we get to the phone lines, let's come to our analyst in the building. So yes, a lot of controversies in our dailies this morning. So which of them exactly would you want to comment on right now?
There are so many. The probe of the MEIT, the Naira slide, the granting of bail to Emefiele, 1.2 billion, and to be granted bail for 300 million. So naira. Indirectly, as an accountant, the man is making profit of 900 million naira if he pays that bail money. Then we're also talking about him refunding about 4 trillion naira to the economy. And then you are shooting somebody, tying somebody to a stake and shooting him, and even sending some to life imprisonment for stealing 20,000 naira. What a tale of moonlight we have in our country, Nigeria. Yes, tales by moonlight. And again, if you go up north, you start talking about NNPP going to court and all this and all that. And the court yesterday, I did say that if care is not taken, they will set this country on fire with this type of judgment. This one will give judgments contrary to what the other court has given on the same issue.
That is a court on the yes.
They even courts for the same appellate jurisdiction are giving different judgments. And we don't even have rule of law anymore. The NJC should step into this matter. The Chief Justice should step into this matter. And even the Minister of Justice should not sit and fold his hands, because what we are seeing today is more than what the eyes can comprehend. Now, if you now come back to the proof which we mentioned earlier, you know, the Yorubas will tell you, I don't think there is any Yoruba person in the house just right now. They will tell you that if the frog lays egg, you will go and hide the egg inside the ground. The lizard also lay egg and also hide the eggs inside the ground. What do you think those eggs are useful for if they are not eaten? The probes that we've been having all along, what is the usefulness of the result of those probes? Exactly. And they continue carrying on probes. Is it just because there is no much work and they want to while away time by all these probes? As far as I'm concerned, they should jettison all these probes and let us go ahead with what we want if we cannot change the situation.
Let me come in at this point. Let's stay with the Kano issue.
Yes.
You know, the appeal court gave a verdict, but the document is reading a completely different thing. The